Hi, I'm John Hornick. Welcome to Lesson 72 of Chef's Apprentice, Learning to Cook Like a Pro, one small plate at a time. This lesson is mushroom ragu with truffle butter and shirred quail egg in a brown eggshell. This great little dish pairs truffle and egg, which is a match made in heaven. The challenges of this dish are to top, fill, bake, and serve the chicken eggs, another exercise of your delicate touch. To achieve just the right balance between the mushrooms and the mint, too much mint will overpower the dish. To break the quail eggs and place them on top of the mushrooms without breaking the yolks, and to shirr the quail eggs to perfection. When properly done, they should have the consistency of a soft boiled egg. Techniques today are chopping and slicing, topping eggs, seasoning, sautéing and browning mushrooms, deglazing, reducing and adjusting seasoning, mounting, shirring eggs in a water bath, and garnishing. So let's start cooking. All right, let's talk about the mise en place for lesson 73. First, we're going to need one brown egg shell per person. Why brown? They look better than white. You're going to top them. We did that in a prior lesson. I think it was the sukiyaki lesson. Top them, take the egg out, use it for something else. Make a big omelet tomorrow for breakfast. Then rinse them, and then put them into a cardboard egg carton to hold them safely, okay? I think the description calls for either 6 or 8. I'm only making 4 today, but I'm using the ingredients, enough ingredients to make it for the full amount on the description, except I'm only using 4 eggshells. So again, top the eggs, rinse them out, put them into a cardboard egg carton to keep them safe. Okay, then we'll need about 4 cups of assorted mushrooms that have been chopped. And I've chopped them into fairly small pieces. You can see they're about maybe 3/4 of an inch around. About 4 cups of those. And I used white mushrooms, oyster mushrooms, and shiitake mushrooms. You could use any combination, or you could just use one kind of mushrooms. But I think you're going to get a deeper, better flavor if you use at least 2 or 3 different types of mushrooms. You'll need to have about 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter. I just eyeballed it. This is about 2 tablespoons. You'll need to have about 1 tablespoon of olive oil. I'm just going to eyeball that when we get to it. Kosher salt, as always, and a pepper mill for freshly ground black pepper. You need to have about half a cup of dry red wine. Again, I'm just going to eyeball that when we get to it. We'll need to have about 1 tablespoon of chopped fresh mint. I have more than that here. Better to have more than you need, but about 1 tablespoon would probably do it. Then we're going to need to have some quail eggs. Now, quail eggs are really underappreciated eggs. First of all, their shells are beautiful. Now, in some dishes, we use this, feature the shell so you can see the shell and the guest can see it. We're not going to be using the shell today. Quail eggs are really good. They're bite-sized. They do not have salmonella, from what I've been told. What we're going to be doing with them today is shirring them. S-H-I-R-R-I-N-G. Some people say shirring them. And what that means, what shirring is it's baking the eggs, usually under a little, in a cup, baking them in a cup under a little topping of cream or milk, sometimes with something sprinkled on top like breadcrumbs. And the idea is to bake them until the eggs are set and the yolks are still not set, basically like a soft boiled egg. Now, that's commonly done with chicken eggs. We're going to do it today with quail eggs, okay? So we're going to need 1 quail egg per person, plus a couple extras in case something goes wrong. You should actually do that with the chicken eggs too. You should have 1 shell per person, and then 1 or 2 extras in case something goes wrong, okay? And then if nothing does go wrong, you'll have them to eat later on. And then finally, we're going to need to have about 2 tablespoons of truffle butter. You can get this in a lot of grocery stores. I got it at Whole Foods. You can find white truffle butter and black truffle butter. All truffle butter is great, but some people think that the white has an even better fragrance, and I agree with them. Okay, that's all of the ingredients. We'll break, come back, and I'll show you the equipment for lesson 73. Now, for lesson 73, we're going to need to have a cutting board and a chef's knife to slice the mushrooms and to chop them in. We'll also need to have an egg topper. Remember, we used this in a prior lesson. This is the kind where you put the egg in there and then you squeeze the scissor handles and little teeth come out and they cut and top the egg off. There are also other types of egg toppers. There's the plunger style where you place it on top, lift it up, and drop the plunger. Those work really well too. You'll need to have an egg carton. I've taken a full egg carton and cut it in half because I'm only doing 4 tonight. If you're doing the full number in the description, you'll probably need to have a whole egg carton. And it should be a cardboard egg carton, not a styrofoam egg carton, because you're going to be putting this in the oven. Styrofoam egg cartons will melt. The cardboard egg cartons will get soggy in the water bath, but they won't melt. Also need to have a pan to cook the mushrooms. I'm using a larger one today because we have about 4 cups of mushrooms, and I want to do as many as I can at the same time. We may have to do them in batches, but we want to brown them, and if you have too many in the pan, then they will steam and not brown. So we're going to use a larger pan today. Then we'll need to have a mixing bowl and spoon to mix the mushrooms with the mint. Then we will have to have a couple of different metal spoons to handle the quail eggs, to work with the truffle butter, and also for filling the eggs with the mushrooms. We need to have a baking pan in which we're going to put the egg carton and a water bath to put into the oven. And then we'll need to have the oven preheated to 300 degrees. Again, I'm not going to show you that as a step in the lesson. I'm just telling you that now. Preheat your oven to 300 degrees. Then we'll need to have some cups to serve with. Now, if you have egg cups, that would be ideal. They are made exactly for the size of an egg. They hold it very nicely, and they make a nice presentation. If you don't have egg cups, you'll need to have a small cup of some kind that is not a lot larger than the egg. Now, what we're going to use today is these little cups, and we're going to put some kosher salt down in the bottom of them to hold these eggs nicely in place. Okay? And then, finally, we'll need to have some spoons to eat this with. Now, a teaspoon, a regular teaspoon, is probably going to be too big to fit inside of this eggshell. So you're going to need to have a spoon that fits in the egg so your guests can eat it. Again, you might say, I don't have all that stuff. If you're going to learn to cook like a pro, you need to have the proper equipment. Okay, that is all of the equipment we need for lesson 73. We'll break now, come back, and start cooking. Okay, first thing on our prep list is to brown the mushrooms. We're just going to add the butter to the pan, about a tablespoon of olive oil. All right, let's add about half the mushrooms, and then we're going to season those. And then you're going to brown these like you have in earlier lessons. I'm not going to take you through it step by step. We've done this before. So if you're working in batches, brown your mushrooms in batches until you have them all brown. All right, the next thing on our list is to mix the mushrooms with just enough mint. We want them to be slightly minty. Okay, so what you should do, if you're not confident about how much to add, is add a little bit first, right? And then mix them up and taste them. And if you can't taste the mint yet, then they're not slightly minty, right? So you'd add a little bit more. But you don't want them to be overly minty, right? You don't want the mint to overpower the whole dish, right? So you want them to be slightly minty. Let's try. Okay, so I don't taste the mint yet, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Stir it up. Okay, let's taste it again. And get them on the spoon. There we go. Okay, that's good. Now, this would also be the time to adjust the seasoning if it needs more salt and pepper, but mine doesn't. If yours does, now's the time to do it. Okay, now we're going to fill the eggshells, and as you can see, my egg carton is floating around in the baking pan in the water, which comes about halfway up the pan, floating around like a little egg carton boat. But that will stop after the egg carton starts to get saturated with the water, and also once we fill these, it's going to add some weight to the eggshells. So we want to fill these eggshells up about 3/4 of the way, carefully, so that we don't break them. Okay, and if you've messed up the outsides of the eggs, like I have, now would be the time to carefully clean them off. Now you might have seen that I was pressing the mushroom mixture down into the eggshell, just so that we have more in there, okay? So it makes a more of a substantial small plate. Now we're going to mount each one of these with a little bit of truffle butter. And how much truffle butter? Oh, about that much, okay? So that's like, what, about a half of a teaspoon of, you know, like this is a not an official teaspoon, this is a kitchen teaspoon. We're going to put about that much of them into each one. We still want to leave a little room at the top because the quail egg is going to go in there. Okay, now here comes your delicate touch. We're going to use the paring knife to just open the quail eggs, right? And we're going to peel it back just slightly. We do not want to break the yolk, okay? Now, once I have that kind of open, I'm going to pour that egg into a spoon, okay? So there it is. It's not broken, right? And we want to put that down inside, right on top of each one of the eggs. And we're going to do that with each one. Now, if any of your eggs break while you are trying to do this, use another egg. Now we're going to take this and put it into the oven at 300 degrees that you've already preheated, and we're going to check them after 20 minutes. Remember, what we're going for is a yolk that is kind of like a soft-boiled egg. We want the whites to be kind of firm and the yolks to be starting to get solid. Okay, it's been 20 minutes, and here's one of our eggs. You can see that the yolk is just starting to the white is set and the yolk is just starting to solidify. So remember, we want this to be like a soft boiled egg. So what we're going to do now, I've put some salt down into these little bowls that we're going to serve these in, and we're just going to place an egg into each one of those. Now, some of them are going to look better than others. That first one looks the best, really, but there's not really much you can do. They're going to have different appearances. Each one's going to have a different appearance. Okay, there we go. Now you want to serve that with a demi-tasse spoon, a spoon that can fit into the eggshell. Okay, that is the conclusion of lesson 73, mushroom ragu with truffle butter and a shirred quail egg. You can see photos of the final dish at my Instagram, which is @Chef's Apprentice, Cook Like a Pro. Next up is plum and apple stuffed caramelized pork tenderloin. Please remember to subscribe to my channel, and thanks for watching.